Hello everyone, this is Zelric. Uh, I have finally made it to the end game after my slow trudge through the campaign because I take forever of my own accord. I just have more fun when I'm not rushing myself to get to the end game, so that's how I play. Uh, I feel like this game kind of rewards me better if I end up playing, not only the way I want to, but just playing slowly. This game is much more forgiving to people that are slightly slower than the rest of the group. I've got plenty of hours in PoE 1, but I just like to play slower. That's just who I am. So anyway, this is my Tactician Ballista build is what I've been calling it, but obviously it's more of a Mortar Cannon build. It's been pretty good. I got through the campaign with no real issues. I was able to down each boss with minimal deaths. I think I died a couple of times on each boss, so I've probably got 38 deaths. It's a decent bit, but not crazy. I wouldn't say didn't struggle too hard on any of the bosses that I fought. Obviously, I wouldn't be able to do it on hardcore, and I wouldn't recommend playing this build on hardcore, but I do have a POB link that I will be posting in the description below if anybody wants to see what I'm doing and follow it. It's a pretty standard mortar cannon build. I made it myself. I didn't follow another guide, but if you feel like you're looking at my build and you look at, say, like Pelestron's or Zizarin's build that he's making and you like theirs better, by all means, do it. I'm no expert. This is just what I'm doing right now. But like I said, you can stay here and follow this one, just at your own risk if you want to. Regardless, my thoughts on the campaign as a whole and 0.3 are as follows. Overall, I think the patch is a solid 7.5, 8 top. I think the League mechanic Abyss that they improved upon from PoE 1 is fantastic, actually. It's every improvement they made I love. The only thing that could be iffy is some of the mods are kind of annoying to deal with on the rares, especially, and I'll show you. I just want to get through the talking bit first. I'll show you a map. I've got one loaded up, but there's mobs in the abysses that have invulnerability unless you're standing in this fog that they place in the ground, and it's very hard to see, especially when you're fighting a bunch of other stuff. And with the CPU load, I've got a pretty decent computer. It's not top of the line, but it's pretty decent, I would say. 3070 Ti. It's no slouch. It's definitely like mid-range at this point, but I'm usually able to play most other games on top graphics. And this game I can't. I've got to run it on low because the CPU load will literally restart my computer every time. And because of that, an already hard to see game is even harder to see. So when GGG puts these mechanics in the game like ground degens that make it to where you can't regen your life at all, or your energy shield, and these invulnerable rares that pop out of the ground that you can't kill unless you're standing in a very specific black fog when everything else around you is either black or green, it makes it very hard to see for someone who doesn't really struggle to see much. I wouldn't say I've struggled a lot on the abysses themselves, but I do see how annoying that is. And the only reason I haven't really struggled is because I am a ranged build, and I'm a fairly strong ranged build at that. So I know that the mortar cannon is pretty overpowered compared to a lot of other builds, especially when you come to consider things like melee. Being in melee range is probably a nightmare, as it has been. Recently, spells are better, but not too much more. They still need work too. But the balance overall is still way off, I think. As a whole, they didn't nail it in this patch. It may have gotten marginally better, but not so much so. I don't think the main build of the League, Lightning Arrow, dominates as hard as Lightning Spear did. The percentages do, like the 50% and the 70% you see people throwing around, but I think that is mainly due to its simplicity this time around, more so than its overall power compared to the rest of the builds. It is better than all the other builds. It completely dominates maps and stuff like that, but overall, I think it is just a simpler way to play since it's a one-button clear everything build versus having to, if you're trying to play anything that has to generate charges, or even this build where you're having to put down mortar cannons and roll around and detonate the grenades and stuff like that. It can be frustrating, you know. I get it. I get the disparity between the builds are too high throughout the gameplay for the balance to feel good. And that's what the problem is. It feels like you're not getting rewarded enough for these more elaborate builds. It feels like right now the balance is weighted more towards the builds that are one button when it shouldn't be. If a build is one button, it should be allowed to exist, but it should be not top tier, in my opinion. Damage, survivability, stuff like that, it should be lesser than all the other builds that have to try harder to get their damage. In my opinion, that would be a much more comfortable place to sit for balance than everything else, than how the game is currently. And it doesn't help that defenses are just kind of out of whack, in my opinion, still. The defenses of the game, the tree is amazing, but it's hard to build both offense and defense at the same time, especially for, I mean, I'm playing a overpowered build, I feel like, and I'm still building mostly offense. Now, obviously, I'm nowhere near optimized. This tree might look a little weird. I'll probably end up making changes, but regardless, I don't feel like I can do both a lot of defense and a lot of offense. You have to go mostly offense for this build in particular, and then kind of dabble into defense as you need it, in my opinion. And I feel like that's probably the case for a lot of other builds too. It's hard to find the points you need to set your defenses right. It's hard to solve defenses, I guess is the best way to put it. It's hard to solve that problem for a lot of builds, especially spellcasters, melee builds. Both of them need a lot of work. Ranged is in a good spot, in my opinion, because you can stay away from mobs, you can blast and clear screens. Like, ranged is in the best spot, and if you could just bring up spellcasters and bring up bow builds and or not bow builds, I'm sorry, bring up spellcasters and bring up melee to where they're equal to or better than ranged, that would be great. I know that's kind of been a struggle of GGG's forever, even in PoE 1. Bow builds have always been extremely dominant in PoE 1 too, even though they had the downside of being glass cannons. Didn't really matter because you could clear the whole screen. Anyway, that's just one aspect of the update. Balance is kind of whack. It's an early access game. Not everything is in the game. There's still plenty of stuff to get into the game, like other classes and other weapon types, so I think the balance is going to be off regardless. I just think it could still be better than this. Other than that, though, like I said, I think the main mechanic, Abyss, is amazing, just with a couple of those mods needing to be removed and adjusted to make it a bit better as an overall playstyle, but the way they've upgraded it, Abyssal Depths feel amazing. I love exploring them and being able to open the chests and see what drops out of those. Those are awesome. I love the crafting additions they made. While I am obviously hoping for even more crafting additions as we go, I think this was a massive step in the right direction. The crafting with the preserved different various bone parts that you can get that then allow you to kind of desecrate the gear, allowing you to add one of these like green mods you see. This T5 green mod is a desecrated thing where you get these. I've got a couple here. You get these preserved ribs, ancient vertebrae, stuff like that. Those are cool. The new omens they've added are really cool. The tiered currency they have in the game now is also really good. I do believe I've made it all the way through the campaign. Sorry to be jumping around a bit. I don't do scripts, so you're just going to have to bear with me a little bit. This is not enough. This is even a couple maps in. Obviously not too far, but this is still a couple maps in, and this is all of the runes I have in total across the entirety of the playthrough I currently have. And while I'm not super far, I think it's unforgivable that we are not getting enough runes. They need to quadruple the amount of runes you get I don't care if they're worth nothing on the overall trade site. They're still already basically worth nothing because eventually you get a lot of them. But if this is meant to be the replacement for the crafting bench, you do not get enough of the runes, of the basic runes across the campaign to solve the issues you need to solve. I feel like overall, I think a lot of people are going to end up missing gear they need because you just can't fix the certain issues. They've made it a little better with the attribute requirement being lowered by 25% in this patch, which is amazing, but it doesn't eliminate the problem. And if you're saying that this is the replacement for the crafting bench, I'm not saying that you need to go back to the crafting bench. Obviously, this is a different game and different solutions can be thought of. But if this is the solution, this solution isn't as readily available as the crafting bench is. It's in your face, and newer players see the sockets and see the socketables, but you don't get nearly enough of them to solve the issues you are getting as they arise, and that's the problem. So I think, again, you need to bump up the amount of runes you get throughout the campaign by quite a large margin. I would rather be flooded with these things to the point where I'm no longer picking them up off the ground than the other way around. I want them to basically be worthless because everybody's got a billion of them. That's at least of the basic ones. The chase ones, they can be hard to come by. That's fine. But these basic runes that solve your attributes, your reses, your other various small issues you have, those need to be in way more abundance across the entire game. Drops got fixed middle of last league. They feel amazing as they have. Some people may disagree with that. I think that the gear chase is fine for the most part. It can be solved. Can you get very unlucky? Absolutely. And maybe that should be somehow solved, but I wouldn't know how, and I wouldn't presume to try and get that job done. So overall, I think the gear chase is fine. And yeah, mapping I'm not going to really touch on because mapping hasn't really changed. They added a couple of the bosses in from the Act 4 and the Interlude Acts, which are all beautiful, amazing. I love Act 4. I'll get back to that in a second. But they added those to the end game, and they added a bit more variety. I have played a couple of maps now, and it's not just the Abyss that adds flavor to the maps, even though when you hit an Abyss, it starts to lag a little bit. I think that the random events are much more common now, and it feels like you're actually running into something more often than not. Now, at least to me, it does. At least in the very small sample size I've played so far. That could change as I go later into the thing, but it feels rewarding enough. I just hope that they continue on that trend, which I think they will. I don't juice very often. I think towers are planned to be addressed in the next update anyway, so I'm not really going to touch on juicing and towers and the likes of that nature. I think that will be that will have some kind of fix coming in the future. But overall, I think that inside of a regular map right now, you go in and you've got a decent bit to do. Can there be improvements still? Absolutely, but overall, it's still the same experience because they didn't really touch it much. They've just given a little facelift this league, so it's still the same. So in-game is meh. Leave it at that. The last thing on the list to talk about for major improvements to the game is Act 4 and the Interlude Acts. Act 4 was beautiful. I loved the fact that you could go to any island you wanted to. There was a couple of things to gather. Not only was the main quest to gather the pieces of the weapon that you needed, the main driving force, but also you had there was this little side quest you did that you found that was like map pieces, and once you found them all, there was a hidden island you found. I think each map was unique, and I loved traversing them. I loved being able to go through the cities, which are beautiful, the coastal cities. The prison gate where you fought the prisoner guy, I don't know his name, and that might be it. That was awesome. The waves crashing into the prison wall and sending water through the whole thing. Beautiful, and I love the interactivity of it. It kept you engaged. It kept you wanting to know where you needed to stand. All great stuff. I think if GGG keeps cooking that way, then the campaign's going to be the best ARPG campaign in any modern ARPG, and it's not even going to be close. And Not like, I just really hope they continue with that trend. Interlude acts are here and there. They're basically just palettes that they use, threw together with some various mechanics from old maps. There was the unique map from last league they added that you clicked some hinges that powered a central area that allowed, like, made you fight multiple bosses in a row. They reused that. They reused a couple ideas from previous maps and just threw them into an interlude act to get you 2 maps. That's fine. They were okay. Nothing to write home about. I liked the little stretch to the end of the to make it to the end of the story, kind of, not really, but how they did that was neat. But my rambling for that is over. I think overall this patch is a win. I do, and I know there's a lot of discourse around it, and a lot of people still saying it's trash and didn't save anything. Is this the best patch of all time of any RPG? No. Does the game still have a shitload of work to do before it's finished? Absolutely, but this is a massive step in the right direction, as I said, and I think GGG needs to keep going. And while a lot of feedback is warranted, and obviously everybody that gives feedback is valuable, please don't yell at the devs over anything or give them death threats or anything, or anybody that likes the game as it is now. That doesn't make any sense. Just live your life. You don't have to shit on somebody else for liking something you don't. That's fine. Anyway, yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna do this map, and you can see how the build functions. This is a T2. This is the Nexus core, and that'll be the end of the video. If you want to go ahead and step out, you can. Thanks for coming by. Subscribe and like the video if you did like the video and you like to hear my thoughts. I post every now and again, fairly frequently, not crazy, but you know. Other than that, thanks for coming by. You can watch if you want to. I'll be just making a little bit of comments on how I map. Forgot I put on the support gem that makes it to where I can't reload unless I dodge roll. Oh, nice, a 15. Oh yeah, another thing that was added, small addition that a lot of people are finding controversial, Sprint. Sprint was added. And I think a lot of people are whining about Sprint way more than it needs to be whined about. I don't think Sprint is nearly as bad as a lot of people think it is. Yes, is it kind of annoying? I think the turning could be made better. But all of the things that are downsides about it can easily be mitigated just by having enough skill. You can dodge roll through most of the animations. As I forget that I still need to dodge roll. I just switched to that new support gem, so forgive me for forgetting that I need to do that. But regardless, I think Sprint is an absolute win of a mechanic add. Ooh, ouchie, that hurt. Hey, don't stand and stuff, and you won't get hit that hard, my guy. Sprint is a win. There's not really much else to say. Just kind of know that I love Sprint. I think it allows you to speed up the gameplay when you need it. You can't use it all the time, which is fantastic. And yeah, it requires some skill to get used to, and that's okay to me. If I'm going to be honest with you, I kind of feel like a lot of what people experience, this might be a hot take, but I feel like a lot of the experiences people are having are dictated by how used they were to PoE 1 and expecting to be just as good at this game as they were at PoE 1 when they're not. It's a different game. So, and because it's different, it's foreign, and I'm not saying that if you're having a bad experience, it means that, like, your opinion is invalid or that you're shit at the game or whatever. It just, I just think it plays a factor into how people are feeling about PoE 2, because it still feels like the veterans of PoE 1 are the ones that are the most outspoken about how quote unquote bad PoE 1 is. And this is all opinion, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I just, like I said, I think the veterans just like, obviously they were veterans of PoE 1 for a reason. They loved PoE 1, they still do. It's their baby, it's the love of their life, essentially. So because this game isn't exactly like it, and GGG has made differences in this game, differences that to a lot of them, and to a lot of people, feel like downgrades from PoE 1, they get confused on why these changes were even having to be made if there's a better system in PoE 1. Just because there's a better system at the moment in PoE 1 doesn't mean that has to be how every version of every game that GGG ever makes has to be. It just means that right now they haven't iterated enough on certain mechanics to make it as good as it needs to be, and they will fix it, just like GGG always does. I feel like eventually they listen to feedback, they get to where they need to go, even if it takes a little bit, and maybe even, as a lot of people like to put it, relearning of a couple mistakes. In different contexts, mistakes are going to be retread. You can't tell me that every single person that's ever played a video game doesn't accidentally do a mistake twice or 3 times. Why is GGG not allowed to make those mistakes again? And I'm okay with calling them shit. I think that certain aspects of the game are bad, obviously, but I also think that people overblow the negatives of the game, and obviously, since nobody sings any of the praises of the game that much, it gets way overblown, and it basically makes everybody talk like PoE 2 is just a complete piece of garbage game, and if you like the game, you're a piece of garbage, and that whole discourse is gross to me. Tribalism makes no sense. Even for a game like D4, people kind of tend to, even in the tribalism thing, they think it's still kind of okay to shit on D4. While it's not my game, I don't play it. I haven't touched it since the preseason, and I only got to level 25 in that game. So it clearly wasn't my game. I still think it has an audience for a reason, and it's okay that people like it. It's okay. It doesn't mean it's not the greatest game, but it's by no means a bad game, I would even say. It's an ARPG that scratches a lot of people's itch that isn't very deep, and I think that deserves to exist in this world, even if it's not what a lot of people will come to expect from an ARPG. And a lot of the diehards that are going to be looking up videos and looking at Reddit posts and posts online about all this kind of stuff obviously are going to trend more towards the side of not being casual. So that's why all the discourse you see online about most of the ARPGs are D4 bad, LE amazing, can't do any wrong other than the Crafton acquisition, and PoE 1 is the GOAT, PoE 2 sucks dick and will never get good. Like, that's the common thread between them all, and I just don't understand. And obviously Grim Dawn and things like that are also good. Torchlight Infinite is not great. Or a lot of people like it. It's not my game either. Look at me being a hypocrite a little bit, but Torchlight Infinite is pay to win. If you don't mind that kind of thing, it's a okay game. I think it is a little too fast-paced for me. I think it's faster-paced than PoE 1 without giving you any of the challenge that's there. It gives power fantasy, which is great, but it's not my thing. And obviously the whole idea of pay-to-win kind of turns me off there. And I know there's a little bit of pay-to-win in PoE as well with the stash tabs. I don't think that's nearly the same at all. I don't feel like it can even really be compared, if I'm being totally honest with you. Straight power buy from one game does not translate to what is in the straight ability to buy power, like in Torchlight Infinite, is not anywhere near close to what the convenience you buy in PoE 1 and 2. Yes, does the convenience of the stash tabs make somebody who has them have an advantage? Absolutely. There is no doubt in my mind that that is the case, but does it give you the same level of winning that Torchlight Infinite does when you buy one of their pack spirits? No. But that's neither here nor there. It's still a good game for people who like it, and that's fine. And that's my point. All of these games can be great because they are enjoyed by different people, even if they're in the same genre. And I've never seen any genre in my life have such a divisive group of fans behind it, because each fan identifies with the game they play, or the handful of games they play. And even though each one of these are all seasonal, and they all get played by most of the fans that are as hardcore as I am about the game, there's still so much tribalism, because everybody, like I said, identifies heavily with the game they play. Anyway, I'm done ranting. Thanks for coming by again. If you stayed to the very last minute, I super appreciate you. You're a real one. Thanks so much for stopping by. Leave a like if you liked it. Leave a dislike if you didn't. Leave a comment talking about what I talked about. If you want to disagree with me, that's fine. If you want to talk about the build, how I can improve it, how you would improve it, totally fine. If you just want to stop by and say, hey, cool with me too. I appreciate everybody out there. Thanks so much. Peace out.